4. I think it's 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Alright, okay, yes, so let's do this. Refuge and Bodhisattva. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, Supreme Assembly, by my merits of generosity and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, Supreme Assembly, by my merits of generosity and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. The foundation of all good qualities is kind and perfect Guru. Correctly following the Guru is the root of the path. By my clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon the Guru with great respect. When I discovered that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, it is extremely difficult to find again and is greatly meaningful. Please bless me to unceasingly generate the mind taking its essence day and night. This body and life are changing like a water bubble. Remember how quickly they perish and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. When I have found definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be conscientious in abandoning even the slightest collection of shortcomings and in accomplishing all virtuous deeds. When I have recognized the shortcomings of samsaric perfections, there is no satisfaction in enjoying them. They are the door to all suffering and they cannot be trusted. Please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Through my being led by this pure thought, with great remembrance, alertness and conscientiousness, please bless me to make keeping the individual liberation vows the root of the teachings my essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother transmigratory beings. By my saying this, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, which bears the responsibility of freeing transmigratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta without familiarizing myself with the 3 types of morality, I cannot achieve enlightenment. By my saying this, please bless me to keep the vow of the sons of the victorious ones with fervent effort. By my having pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to quickly generate within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. When I have become a suitable vessel by training in the common path, please bless me to immediately enter the holy gateway of the fortunate beings, the supreme of all vehicles of Vajrayana. At that time, the base of accomplishing the 2 attainments is keeping my vows and samaya purely. When I have gained effortless conviction in this, please bless me to protect them even at the cost of my life. Then when I have realized exactly the vital points of the 2 stages, the essence of the tantric sets, and am enjoying the yoga of 4 sessions with effort, without being distracted by non-meditation objects, please bless me to accomplish these according to the teachings of the holy beings. Thus may the virtuous friends who reveal the noble path and the spiritual practitioners who correctly accomplish it have long lives. Can you go up a little bit, please? Yeah, it says spiritual practitioners. It also it's like Sujin to be taught. It doesn't say spiritual practitioners, although I guess it means that it's like your companions in the practice. Sujin to be taught. Those companions who are practicing the Buddhist teachings the way they were intended. Please bless me to pacify completely the collections of outer and inner obstacles. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Thank you. Something I heard recently which I thought was quite nice and quite useful. It wasn't in the context of patience, but it had some things about patience, practice of patience. Actually, it started off like that. So I don't know who. So this is a verse, and Kinla was, for some reason, didn't say who it was, who the author was. Maybe he didn't know. But anyway, how this verse goes is, well, I can't remember word by word the precise words, but the meaning is straightforward. So it says, so the time to practice patience is when so singing, and anyway, when people are saying nasty things to you, criticizing, insulting you, that's the time to practice patience. A bit like we were saying probably last week that that for practicing patience, you need somebody harming you. You need things to go wrong. Otherwise, no opportunity to practice patience. You don't really get the opportunity to practice patience when things are going well and everybody's been very nice to you. So, and it's also, so here it's a bit like my understanding, the feeling I got from it, it's like this is the time to practice patience. So to have that awareness when it's happening. Oh, this is the time to practice patience. This is my opportunity. I mean, from experience, I'm sure we've all found that you sort of you hear these things and it's all very nice, and maybe in the beginning you're thinking, well, yeah, exactly. But of course, when it comes down to it, it's just get angry, which is the most normal thing in the world. So I have often thought, and I think I've thought for a long time that, I mean, like getting angry is bad enough, but even worse than getting angry is holding on to it. And so I think for now, these teachings on patience help one to, you're on a deep level, changing very gradually, and on a more superficial level, I'm not sure if that's what I mean, but I think that's what I mean. Learning not to hold on to it, hold on to the anger. So, I mean, practically what that would mean then, so if somebody says something really nasty, of course, you immediately get angry, but then going away from the situation, and being able to think, actually, yeah, that's maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong, but anyway, they helped me to use up some bad karma. Of course, I got angry, which means that I also destroyed something by getting angry, but at least I'm not going to sort of like harbor feelings of hatred towards this person. And this is where, for me, there's a big difference between anger and hatred, to hold on to that kind of hatred. And then, like that sort of breeds the wish to get your own back. If you can get your own back, that person becomes the kind of person, when you hear about their misfortune, you have a little bit of a feeling of glee, which is not very nice, is it? So anyway, yeah. But still, patience is something you practice when people are saying bad things to you. Singing anyway, the bad words, literally it says. So, yeah. Then generosity is to practice when you have food and wealth, let's say. So, that is when you've got things to give. That's the time to practice generosity. In a way, it's obvious, but it's like, again, you're like, oh, that's the time to practice generosity. It's actually not like I've heard many, my teachers talking about how no matter how poor you are, you can still practice generosity. Like with very simply by practicing taking and giving, you give sort of like in your mind, you give everybody everything that they need, and lead them all to enlightenment and so on. As we've done that meditation. But rather than having and then just enjoying it, which means you're using up the karma, because of course all that, just like the bad words, unpleasant things that people say to you, that's the result of your karma. So the good thing about that is the person has helped you to use up your karma, your bad karma. Also, when you have a very comfortable situation, when you have anyway, what I mean, when you've got food and wealth, however you want to put it, food, when you've got things, comfort and all that, you're using up the good karma, using up merit. So use the situation when you have to create the causes for more in the future. Anyway, so that's one way of looking at it, isn't it? Another way of looking at it is what I have is, when you have the Bodhisattva vows and all that, then especially if you have if you do the 6 session Guru Yoga, from having highest yoga tantra, then each day, several times we talk about giving everything. It's not just cultivating the thought of giving, but actually, in your mind, let's see, otherwise it's going to get complicated. So there is the teaching of like give what you're able to, and then what you're not able to, then you're you need to take care of. So you're the custodian. So basically, the idea is that we do these practices where you in your meditation you give, but in your mind you've actually given it. So actually, it doesn't belong to you anymore. You're the custodian. You're the custodian of all this. I'm saying all this. I mean, I haven't got that much here. Most of it's my mum's. A lot of books. some clothes. Yes. But anyway, uh, what we are the custodians. We're looking after it. We're the caretakers. But in any case, then they talk about increasing also not just you're going to be the custodian, but you increase it in the sense that I think you could take it to mean you, you like if you've got the responsibility of looking after somebody's money, then investing it for them so that it makes more, so like that. So you've got this little bit of wealth by using it through the practice of generosity, especially bodhicitta motivation. Incredible amount of merit you're creating, right? So you're increasing it, developing it. Anyway, yeah. So generosity. So even though you can always practice generosity one way or another, we have these teachings, but also particularly, when you have things, food and so on, to practice generosity with on that sort of practical level, then that's the time to use it. Otherwise, you're just using it up. Then, what was the other one? So when to do prostrations and circumambulations is when you're healthy. So that's sort of formal physical practice, isn't it? And it seems to be pretty important in Buddhism, the way that we hear it, according to our teachers. The prostrations. I mean, if you when you go for refuge, then one of the refuge precepts is to do 3 prostrations during the day and 3 times at night. Doesn't it say that? Does anybody remember? Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, of course, there's different ways of doing prostrations. You can do the full-length prostrations. Then you can do what they call the gumchaks. Anyway, what would you call that? Half prostration? I don't know. Full prostration, half prostration, where the 5 parts of your body touch the ground. Actually, it's 1. I guess if you include your knees, it's 1. Feet, knees, and the hands and the forehead. But they usually say 5. I guess because your feet are kind of like you can't avoid that. Of course, your feet are going to be on the ground. So then you put your knees on the ground, put the hands on the ground, and the forehead on the ground. So anyway, 5 touching the 5 parts of the body. But also doing this it counts as prostration, doesn't it? Putting the palms together, and so on. And then like when you do the 35 Buddhas, I mean, we have such a what you call customs, such a strong habit of doing the 35 Buddhas, reciting the names of 35 Buddhas, along with prostrations, that one tends to think it's like obligatory. Of course, it's not actually obligatory, but there is, I mean, there is that practice quite sort of prevalent. So, and then doing circumambulations. We all know about doing circumambulations, and there's some teaching of Venerable that whenever he's going anywhere, he's always doing circumambulations. So I did think, maybe what he means is that like wherever you are in the world, wherever you're walking, somehow, and so somehow, Bodhgaya Stupa, for example, is on your right. So you could think that you're doing a circumambulation. I don't think he meant that. But I mean, I don't know. I felt quite convinced by it. No, I'm not sure that it's wrong. But I think what he meant was that, you know, we're quite big on imagining things and visualizing, right? So just wherever you're going somewhere, just imagine on your right. I mean, it could be your guru, could be a stupa, His Holiness Dalai Lama, whatever, Imagine that they're on your right and you're circumambulating them. And there are mantras to do to make the prostrations and the circumambulations and prostrations much more powerful, multiplying mantras, especially for that. But anyway, the point is, while your body allows it, that's the time to do it. There's no good thinking, oh, maybe once I've retired. I think most of us are retired here. Some not. Some not. But of course, you can't tell by looking at people. Some people retire young, and then some people keep going forever. But anyway, the point is, don't think later. Besides the fact that you might die first, but don't assume that you're always going to be able to do these things. It could be that when the time comes when you think, now's the time, I've got more time, now's when I'm going to do my prostrations, but somehow you just can't do them, or you can't do so much. But anyway, I do remember when I was at Nalanda Monastery, near Toulouse, in France. One of our monks, I mean, I wasn't particularly aware of him being having any health issues, but he did tell me that he had talked to Lama Yeshe about the difficulties with prostration, and Lama had advised him that because you don't have to do prostrations with the 35 Buddhas. You can do anything you want, really. In fact, 35 Buddhas could be the 8 Medicine Buddhas. But anyway, what Lama Yeshe advised him to do was to recite the long Chenrezi mantra, the Navarataya, that one, the long Chenrezi mantra, and do a prostration with each recitation. So I thought that's quite nice. I never did that, but that's quite nice. So you just sort of stand there and recite the mantra, or you could be doing it as you're prostrating. But the point is, it's a sort of much more manageable, isn't it? It's not like you have to just like rush down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. If you watch them in Bodhisattva, the ones that are doing their 100,000 prostrations, it's amazing how fast they do it and for how long. So it doesn't have to be like that. It can be just if you've got the well, in fact, whether you've got the 35 Buddhas memorized or not. But I mean, you could do the same with that. Just recite the 35 names. When you're used to it, it doesn't take very long. Recite the 35 names, do one prostration, recite 35 names again, do one prostration. You can do it like that. In fact, you could even do 35 sets. Wouldn't take that long. It doesn't take that long, but I think it takes longer when you're doing it in English. That's why I like doing things in Tibetan. They don't take so long. Yes. So anyway, prostrations, circumambulations. Circumambulations is nice to do. I mean, I've always sort of had a bit of an issue that it seems like it's an Asian thing to do and not a Western thing to do, which is okay, but I find it difficult to see how like somehow inherently it's something virtuous. But the fact is that if you do these, if you do circumambulations with it in having in mind that you're showing somehow your high regard for the enlightenment, Buddha, the gurus, and your gurus, and so on, then it becomes something very positive, doesn't it? So anyway, it's very nice to do, and you don't need to be at a Dharma center with stupas to be able to do that. So, like Geshe-la, who was talking about this the other day, was saying, if you've got a place that's big enough, you can always have a. This is something that Rinpoche used to do, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You have a table in the middle of the room, not a very low one, maybe like dining room table size in height. I mean, and you can put even if it's just a statue of the Buddha, or a picture of His Holiness Dalai Lama, or a small stupa. It doesn't have to be a big one. Whatever kind of holy object you like, and just walk around that indoors without even going outside. But then also, you know, just wherever your house is, if you've got your house on the block, then you can walk around the block and you're circumambulating all of the holy objects in your room. So there are different ways. So anyway, yeah, when you're healthy is the time to do those things. Don't wait until later when you're too old and decrepit. Yes,
Yeah, I was Venerable. I was trying to remember the name of the nun who now is at Maitripa, but she created a PowerPoint for the 35 Buddhas that's really lovely. And I had it at one point, but now I've lost it. But it was wonderful because she had the images and the pictures and all the words and the meanings. It was really easy to follow when when I had that PowerPoint, it was really good. So I
Mm.
don't know, I can't remember her name. She's American, but went to study in Australia and then came back, and now she's at Maitripa.
Oh yeah, Yuntin.
Yunten, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yunten, yeah.
I Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, actually, we didn't have PowerPoints at that time. When I first went to a Dharma center, it was Manjushri Institute in the north of England, in the Lake District, southern Lake District, really. Not far from Ulverston, which is where Stan Laurel was born, just by the way. So I remember, uh, well, anyway, I'm not going to reminisce too much, but it brings back all sorts of memories, of course. But I do remember that there were a couple of residents there that were doing that practice of reciting the 35 Buddhas, and they had they had written out the names in big letters on the wall. So they had good. They had that in front of them, so they could look at that as they were doing it. But actually, in terms of, there's another way of doing it actually, which is that uh, because it's not like you have to do number 1 to number 35 and that's it. That's how you do it. What you could be doing is it's like gradually getting more and more used to saying the names so that almost automatically you end up with them being memorized. And maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but what I mean is that you have your book there, and so you haven't got the first one memorized, but anyway, so you look at it and you can hold it in mind and say it to yourself as you're doing the prostration. Just that one, just that one. Just keep reciting, keep reciting it, and then do the second one, then do the and so on. I mean, you wouldn't even need to do all 35 in one day. You can do however many you've got time for, and then gradually you can start reciting 2 together, and then start reciting 3 together, by memory, because you become more and more familiar, and it's it takes however long it takes, depending upon how good your memory is. So that's also a nice way of doing it. I know. I mean, that was how I did the Chinese prayer, the Po prayers, which I've forgotten by now because I've got out of the habit. But anyway, there is that you can do it. You can do it like that. You can do it like that. There's ways, the techniques for memorizing. Yeah, so that's that. And then the fourth line was maybe most important one, which is, well, the way he puts it is something like, yeah, tang lo si gom. I think gom. So the time to meditate on the instructions is when your mind is clear. And you might think at first, oh, what that must mean first thing in the morning, but and it could mean that, but you could understand it like that. But what he really meant by that was, again, don't assume that now you're busy, so there's no time to, you don't really have time to meditate. But when you get old and you've retired, then you'll do your meditation. But maybe your mind is not going to be clear enough at that time. It's not as easy, And I get the feeling with some of these old lamas that they never lose the clarity of mind. But that actually, even then, having said that, gradually, gradually they become affected. They show the aspect of being affected by the aging process. But the point is, anyway, now when your mind is clear, this is the time to listen to teachings, think about them, try to meditate on them, try to change your mind. Don't assume that you're going to be able to do, your mind is going to be up to it when you get old. So there was a question here about the 35. There we are. I don't know if there's a significance in the 35, except that there just do happen to be 35 Buddhas of confession. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I think there's some sort of story about somebody wanted to purify, and so the Buddha sort of summons these 35 Buddhas who all have, who are all particularly powerful for purifying various things, for various numbers of eons and so on. Yeah, otherwise, but it's a handy number because we talk about the five. There's different ways of visualizing them, but there's the five Buddha families, Akshobhya and Amoghasiddha and all those ones, those five, Amoghasiddha, Vajrayana. I'm probably getting the order mixed up. Anyway, Akshobhya, Amitabha, Amoghasiddha, Ratnasambhava, Vajrayana. Those five, and so 35 divides up into seven, so you have seven for each of those five families. That's one way, That's usually usually the way that we visualize them. But otherwise, I don't know particularly why. Why seven medicine Buddhas? I don't know. Why even 21 Taras? I mean, why not 56? Maybe they're going to say because more than 35 is too many, and less than 35 is too few. Okay, so anyway, yeah. So now is the time. Now is the time. Don't wait till. Don't put it off. Mm. So maybe we can spend a few minutes thinking about that, and then we'll keep going with the text. Patience is the thing the time to practice patience when people are being unpleasant to you. Time for practicing generosity is when you have things. The time for practicing the prostrations and circumambulations is when your body is healthy, can support it. Time for meditating, studying and meditating is when your mind is clear. Okay. We're on page 256, aren't we? I think we got to. We just looked at these things from the Bodhisattva and the Mathematical talking about how a moment of anger destroys 100 eons or 1,000 eons of the merit and so on from practicing generosity and so forth. So we talked about that, so that's okay. So now, so carry on from there. This is around the middle of the page. That's where we got, isn't it? Anybody who's following the text. There's a paragraph that after the verse from the entering the middle way that says, as regards the person in whom the anger arises. So it talks about how the one who's getting angry can even be a bodhisattva. Anyway, so as regards the person in whom anger arises, even bodhisattvas destroy the roots of virtue if they get angry. So needless to mention, this is the case for one who is not a bodhisattva, who gets angry at a bodhisattva. So there's kind of the assumption is that who you're getting angry with, whether you're a bodhisattva or not, anyway, who you're the most destructive the anger becomes is when the object is a bodhisattva. Then the entering the middle way auto commentary. So Chandrakirti's commentary on his own text, entering the middle way, says that whether or not it is certain that the object is a bodhisattva, and whether or not the reason for the anger seeing false is true, the destruction of virtue is similar to how it was explained above. So what do you think of that when it says whether or not it is certain that the object is a bodhisattva? I have an opinion on it, but let me put it this way. Is it possible that there is a person of whom you, hmm, well, put it this way: isn't everybody either a bodhisattva or not a bodhisattva? So then, literally, this must be wrong then, because it says whether or not it is certain that the object is a bodhisattva. It is always certain that the person is a bodhisattva or not a bodhisattva, but we might not be certain, right? So, in other words, um, when you're getting angry towards the bodhisattva, the destruction that's done will be regardless of whether you know that they're a bodhisattva or not. It's not like you can almost imagine, well, I didn't know they were a bodhisattva, so, otherwise I wouldn't have got angry. Of course, if I'd known they were a bodhisattva, I wouldn't have got angry. But I didn't know. So maybe, I sort of, maybe there's a discount or something. But it's not like that. Yeah, so that's one thing. So, in other words, Chandakirti is saying, doesn't matter whether you know they're a bodhisattva or not. And also, it doesn't matter whether the reason for anger is sinful. So you see, you see something that you think is wrong, right? You see them. They say the point is that you might have misheard them. So you're getting angry with them for saying something they didn't actually say, that kind of thing. But you still got angry. So what he's saying is that's not the point. That's irrelevant. Whether you know they're a bodhisattva or not is irrelevant. The person is a bodhisattva, so the destruction is done. Then, so that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? The idea is pretty straightforward. The object is a bodhisattva, whether you know or not, and that's why it is, that they're always saying, so you have to be careful with everybody because you never know who's a bodhisattva or not, and because it's just like hot coals covered over with ashes. Can't tell. The lamas, especially sort of the older generation. I think maybe I even heard it from Kevza Zubramshi. They talk about this butcher in Lhasa. So usually with the Tibetans, probably with in Asia in general, the butcher is the one that kills them. I mean, they do. It's not just somebody who cuts the meat up. The one that's the one that actually kills them. But this butcher was actually, like every animal that he killed, he immediately sent to a Pure Land. So what we would see is somebody who's just like, this is terrible. I mean, like making a living out of killing animals so that we can eat them. But that was what he was doing anyway. Then the fortress at Sumera. So in general, anger does not need to be directed at Bodhisattva in order for it to destroy roots of virtue. So they talk about 100 years and 1,000 years. Okay, so then maybe that has to be a Bodhisattva, but that doesn't mean to say that you can get angry with anybody who's not a Bodhisattva and you get off scot-free kind of thing. No problem. No merits destroyed kind of thing. No, it's not like that. A passage quoted from the Sarvastivadin scriptures in the Compendium of Trainings says, so Sarvastivadin, Mula Sarvastivadin. So one way of putting it is this, there are different, so the monastics, and actually because, we also have the lay vows, right? So that comes from the Pratimoksha, it comes from Vinaya. So anyway, the body of teachings that the Buddha gave, which sort of regulate or which describe the rules of the monastics is called the Vinaya, right? So there are different Vinaya traditions that from ancient India. They 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 for, they formed these different lineages, and so one of them is called Savastivadin. Mula Savastivadin. Tamshi Yobama. That doesn't. I don't know if I can really explain what that means. Anyway, Mula Savastivadin. So in their scriptures, um, what they say, and this is something you find in the Compendium of Trainings, which I guess would be the by uh, Shantideva. So mainly he's famous for the Bodhisattva, right? But he also composed a text called the Shiksha Samochaya Compendium Laptu. Yeah, Laptu. Yeah, which sort of what they say is what he didn't explain so clearly in the Bodhisattva is explained more clearly in the Shiksha Samuchaya, the Compendium of Trainings. So in other words, Shantideva quotes from these Vinaya uh, teaching scriptures this following passage. So it says, if a fully ordained monk prostrates with extended limbs and a clear mind to a stupa of hair and nail relics, so a fully ordained monk, so that's clear enough. Prostrates with extended limbs, so doing a full prostration, stretched out on the floor, on the ground, and a clear mind, so a mind of faith, to a stupa of hair and nail relics. So probably what that would mean would be a stupa as we understand it, containing relics of the Buddha, whether it's a hair or a nail or nails or whatever, or tooth or whatever it could be. Then he will come to enjoy as many thousands of universal monarch kingdoms as there are particles of dust that cover the ground, all the way down to the golden foundation. So at this point, it becomes more profitable to accept the flat Earth theory of the world than the round theory of the Westerners, because according to the classical, so the understanding of the way the world is made, which is described in the Abhidhamma Kosha, Vasubandhu's Abhidhamma Kosha. So His Holiness often talks about this. It's a really fantastic scripture, but His Holiness often says, but when it comes to his description of the world, which is flat and which has got Mount Meru in the center and all that, he said he really kind of like that was quite embarrassing somehow, because we all know that the world is not flat. But actually, I just mentioned it. So um, yeah, so in the it's not just in the Abhidhamma Kosha that talks about the universe, basically our world system, not the whole universe anyway. Our world system having Mount Meru in the center, and being flat kind of thing. Also in the Kala Chakras Tantra, uh, I mean, you sort of it's just somehow didn't really hit me. It's like, okay, well, the Vasubandhu says like that, then it's not surprising. Kala Chakras Tantra would say like that. Actually, also in the Chakra Samvara practice, that they say that the teaching was first given at the top of Mount Meru and so on. And so anyway, so in the Kala Chakras Tantra, it does talk about the world being flat, and it's a little bit different in details and so on from the Abhidhamma Kosha, but it's similar idea of basically a flat Earth and Mount Meru in the center and so on. So I said, I've been going through this text with one of my teachers, and I did mention to him that somehow, but just like with Vasubandhu, how can you accept the description of this world system according to Kala Chakra? And he was saying, because I was saying, so because there isn't a Mount Meru, right? There just isn't one. Like His Holiness says, if there were one, then when we're going around when we're flying, we should be able to see it, but we can't, can we? In any case, we know that the Earth is round; it's not flat, that kind of thing. So I said that to him. He says, actually, that's a little bit difficult to say it's not like that. And he said, is there a Shambhala or not? Has everybody heard of Shambhala? Okay, so is there a Shambhala or not? Not sure. Anyway, so generally speaking, it's very, I mean, like if there was no Shambhala, it's difficult to imagine how you could really, um, yeah, it's kind of like a very intrinsic part of the Kala Chakra Tantra. It's like where the Kala Chakra Tantra was first taught, or I think anyway. But anyway, they talk about the Shambhala kings and all that kind of thing. So then it's so then I didn't really want to say, well, no, that doesn't exist, because actually there is some discussion about the Shambhala. They say it's like it's there, it's in the world, but you have to have the karma to see it. So it's almost like you. I think people even say, "Oh, where is here, such and such a place in the world," but that doesn't mean to say that if anybody went there and even kind of like just crisscrossed it and checked the whole place out, that they would necessarily see Shambhalas. People who have a Shambhala, people who have the karma, they would be able to see that, see it. They would be able to go there. Special kind of karma. So this is getting a little bit, getting a bit kind of strange, isn't it? But anyway, so Shambhala, yeah. So it's like, oh. So maybe it's all there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you were to just look around, you'd be able to see it. When I'm making mandala offerings, I must say I like the flat Earth one version, sort of. Yeah, it's nice. It's just the world that we're living in, but just imagining it in a different form. I don't care really, nice. But so yeah, anyway, I think I'm going to stop there talking about that. So what I'm saying is, yeah, how this started was the kind of they talk about the, like when you do prostrations, the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, they talk about how you create the karma, the merit to be born as a Chakravartin king a thousand times for every particle of dirt that's under your body when you're fully stretched out, right down to the bottom of the earth. And the point is that the bottom of the earth, when you in the classical thing, it would be like from wherever you are, anyway, from wherever you are until well out into space, probably as far as the moon. Whereas if you if you only get the 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 merit, that kind of merit going down to the bottom of this earth, which is round and which is half the diameter of the world, so you're going to get loads and loads and loads and loads less merit. Do you see what I mean? Is this all a bit weird? It's all a bit weird, isn't it? Anyway, I'm just trying to talk about this passage. Anyway, they if simply speaking, what this is saying is that a when a fully ordained monk, so the point being that doesn't have to, the person who's getting angry doesn't have to be a bodhisattva. That was it, wasn't it? In general, anger does not need to be directed at a bodhisattva in order for it to be for it to destroy roots of virtue. That must come. Yeah, that comes in the next paragraph. So first of all, this fully ordained monk has created a huge amount of merit by doing prostrations. That's, in a nutshell, that's what it's saying, right? Huge amount of merit. Then the next passage says, even those roots of virtue will be destroyed if he injures or disparages one of pure conduct. So pure conduct, samba sumbachaba, it actually says samba sumbachaba. So one who basically, I think more or less you could, and what this means is somebody who is similar to them, practicing in a similar way to them. Because somebody who is practicing in a way similar to them in striving for liberation. So it doesn't say disparages if they injure or disparage a bodhisattva. It just says one of pure conduct, which means, in other words, a fellow monk or nun or whatever. Doesn't have to be a bodhisattva. All that would be destroyed. Okay, so let's get going with this. Time's getting on. So is that okay? Okay, should we carry on? Keep going? Okay. Okay, so anyway, probably you're thinking, okay, so here's somebody who believes that there is a flat earth. Anyway, there are still flat earthists, aren't there, in the world? And I think they make a pretty good case. Some scholars say the destruction of roots of virtue means that the potential of earlier virtue to bring about its effect is destroyed and the emergence of its effect is delayed, so that the effects of hatred and so forth emerge first. Their respective effects do emerge, however, if they even eventually, meet with suitable conditions, for no mundane path whatsoever can eliminate the seeds that are to be eliminated. So it's impossible for seeds to be eliminated by mental affliction. So what this is saying is, in those verses from the Bodhisattva and the Madhyamaka, it talks about destroying the roots of virtue, right? So it's like destroying your merit. So anyway, you've created this karma, and after the karma is finished, you have this, what we call a seed, this sort of potential, right, to bring a particular kind of result. If it was a good action, then a good result, happiness kind of thing. If it was a bad action, then suffering. And what this is saying is that in the case of the seeds of destructive karma, along with the mental afflictions, those potentials cannot be destroyed by a mundane path, which means the only way that you can destroy them, in other words, completely, render them so that they could never cause you a problem again. They could never, ever, no matter what happens, bring you suffering, is with a super mundane path, which means with a direct realization of emptiness. Which means, like once you achieve the path of seeing, the path of meditation, that's the only, before that, no matter how strong your realization of emptiness might be, it won't be able to do that. It's only when you get the direct perception, non-conceptual understanding, right? So if a mundane path is not able to destroy the seeds of negative karma, a mundane path is also not going to be able to destroy the seeds of positive karma. That's what they're saying. That's what this person is saying. If so, that's the basis, right? That's that's their premise. But they also accept the idea that it's destroyed. So what does it mean by destroyed? They're going to say they want to say. Actually, I'm saying destroy. What is it? Even though it actually uses the word eliminate. Eliminate. Sorry. So I was saying destroyed. So it's only a direct realization of emptiness can eliminate those. A mundane level of realization can't eliminate the seeds of the bad karma and the mental afflictions. So also a mundane path won't be able to, a mundane mind, let's say, won't be able to eliminate the seeds of positive karma. So in other words, anger is not something super mundane. It's a completely ordinary thing. It's an ordinary state of mind. So that's not going to be able to eliminate the seeds of the positive karma. So what does it mean to destroy, they say? They say what it means is you just delay the experience. So, however quickly that merit would have been able to bring a result is going to be delayed, and then in the meantime, you're going to have to experience the results of your negative karma. Do you get the point? Right. That's what this is saying. So, now, so then Lama Tsongkhapa disagrees with that. He says this is not a reliable reason, which means that's not always the case. It's not always the case that this delay takes place. Okay, so what does he mean? Even though ordinary beings, so an ordinary being is somebody who doesn't have a direct realization of emptiness, even though ordinary beings purifying non-virtues by means of the four opponent powers do not eliminate their seeds. So in other words, when you purify using your negative karma with the four opponent powers, the seeds are not eliminated. That's what he's saying. The seeds are not eliminated. The seeds remain. But still, it is impossible for the fully ripened result effect to emerge, even if the conditions are met later. So, although he doesn't say here, what we have to understand from this is that even though the seeds are still there, they can't bring a result because the purification with the four opponent powers has completely ruined them. And you might have, maybe when we were going through this earlier on in this text, we might have had the idea that it's like a seed that's become rotten or burnt. If the seed is rotten or burnt, it cannot grow into the plant. So just like that, the seed is still there though. It's just that it's rotten or burnt. So like that here, with the four opponent powers, purifying with the four opponent powers, the seed is still there, but it can't bring a result. Just like a rotten in the external world, a rotten or a burnt seed. So no matter what happens, even though you provide like with the external rotten or burnt one, you can give it all of the conditions that would normally make a seed grow, like the moisture and the warmth and so on. You can do all that, but it will never grow into a plant. So just like that, whatever happens, you won't experience the ripening result. In other words, that seed of karma won't bring a bad result. It can't. It's impossible. That's what he says. Do not eliminate their seeds. It is impossible for yeah. Okay, heard that already. Then, once the peak and forbearance levels of the path of preparation have been attained, although wrong views and seeds of non-virtue that become the cause of lower rebirths have not been abandoned, wrong views and lower rebirths are impossible even if these seeds meet with their conditions. So I don't know what that's saying that's extra, but generally speaking, um, the peak and forbearance. So you got the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of knowing or learning. Path of preparation has got uh, four parts to it. So heat, peak, forbearance, and highest dharma. So here it's saying the heat, peak, forbearance, highest dharma. So once you've achieved the second and third levels of those, I mean, it must be also the higher levels, then you haven't yet abandoned wrong views and the seeds of non-virtues for being born in lower realms. You haven't abandoned this. Again, it's only on the path of seeing and the path of meditation you actually abandon them. They use this word abandon. Um, okay, so on those two levels you haven't abandoned them. Let's read that again. Once the peak and forbearance levels of the path of preparation have been attained, although wrong views and the seeds of non-virtues that become the cause of lower rebirths have not been abandoned, those wrong views and rebirth in the lower realms are impossible, even if the seeds meet with their conditions. So he doesn't explain why it would be like that in the case of those two levels of path preparation, but again, it's an example of how, even if all the conditions are there, the results could not come about. So he's just what do you call it? Emphasizing his disagreement with this idea that destroy means just defer, because he's saying actually no, that's not true. It's possible even before you achieve the path of seeing, path of meditation, direct realization of emptiness. You can do practices that make those seeds so that they cannot bring a result ever. It's not just delayed, but it can never bring a result. Okay. Yes. So then he says, Vasubandhu states in the Treasury of Abhidharma auto commentary, as for the karma that produces psychic existence, some is heavy. I'm not quite sure what the significance of that is, but the following it should be commentary on it. As for the karma that produces psychic existence, yeah, some have already said that. Or accordingly, either a virtuous or a non-virtuous karma, by ripening sooner, can temporarily block the occasion for another karma to ripen. However, it cannot be posited, nor has it been taught that it can destroy virtuous or non-virtuous karmas. So here, what he's saying, I think he's saying this, that there are cases where you do something which delays the ripening of a particular positive karma, but in the scriptures it never says that in that case it's been destroyed. You never say destroy for that. Destruction of roots of virtue does not mean the mere temporary postponement of its ripening. Otherwise, it would have to be necessary to teach that all strong non-virtues destroy the roots of virtue. Yeah. Because if you have a very strong, like for example, what they say about the five, what you got, the five uninterrupted negative actions, like killing your father, killing your mother. They say that they're called samme. Yeah. Anyway, so from the uninterrupted means that because of having done that, the very next life you're born in the hell realms and no other karma intervenes. So uninterrupted in that way. Nothing intervenes. So that can happen, but it's not said that though that negative karma, like killing your father, killing your mother, and so on, that by doing that action you've destroyed your merit. They never say that, and in fact that's not what's happened. It's just that the karma is so strong that it definitely brings about the result in the very next life. Therefore, with respect to this, as Master Bhaviveka has said in his Blaze of Reasoning, so this is a great Indian master, right, who I think a direct disciple of Nagarjuna, and as was explained before. So what he says is, neither non-virtues that have been purified by the four powers, nor roots of virtue that have been destroyed by wrong views or harmful intent, can bring about their effect, even if later on they meet with the conditions. Just as a seed that has been damaged cannot produce a sprout, even though the conditions are met. Anyway, more or less okay, I think. Fairly clear. So let's see, where are we? It goes on quite a bit, doesn't it? Let's say, yeah, let's stop for a couple of minutes and just, I don't know, try to think what you've understood from that. Try to summarize it in your own mind, see how you feel about it. Mm, it occurred to me that 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 quote from the Vasubandhu in the Treasury of Abhidharma commentary, as for the karma that produced cyclic existence, some is heavy. Actually, what he's talking about there is, the question of, when we die, then where we go on to in our next life depends upon uh, our karma, right? And so we have all kinds of, seeds of good actions, bad actions, and so the one which is heaviest, meaning the most powerful, that's going to ripen first. And it's clear from that that when we say that that's the one that ripens first, it doesn't mean to say that that destroys the other ones by delaying them. So it just doesn't work to say that destroy, when we talk about destroying 100 eons or 1,000 eons of good actions, that it means just delaying them. So then, moreover, even though accumulated bad actions are cleared away by purifying them with the four powers as described above, this does not contradict the fact that they delay the arising of higher paths. Well, that's one thing that they do say. Uh, the good thing about bad karma and so on is that you can purify it. So you purify it, and so what that removes is the somehow obligation to experience suffering as a result. But um, another thing that those negative karmas do is they create a delay in your achieving some higher level. Um, so maybe you could have achieved a particular level in this life, but because of that negative karma, you won't be able to achieve that level, for maybe another 100 eons or whatever. I mean, they're different sort of different things depending on what the action was. But still, you purified it so you don't have to experience the negative result. But achieving the higher level is nevertheless delayed. Thus, in some people, the effects of giving gifts and guarding ethics, such as the arising of excellent wealth and bodies, are destroyed. However, owing to the effect corresponding to the cause, familiarization with giving and the mind of abandonment, the roots of so the mind of giving, that's generosity. Mind of abandonment means the morality. The roots of virtue, of generosity and ethics arise again easily and cannot be destroyed. So that's actually quite encouraging in a way. So, oh, sorry. So the anger is destructive, meaning that you won't experience the positive results of those actions that you've been doing for 100 eons or 1,000 eons. But there are other aspects of the doing good actions which won't be lost. So that the result similar to the cause won't be lost. Not the action similar to the cause won't be lost. That's what he's saying here specifically, right? So what they usually call the ripening result of giving, which would be wealth, of practicing morality, which would be having a human body, even though the ability of that karma to produce those results is destroyed. So no matter what happens, you're not going to get the results of those karmas on that level. But there's also the effect corresponding to the cause, the effect similar corresponding to the cause. So we've got two kinds of effect corresponding to the cause, right? The action similar to the cause and the experience similar to the cause. So the action similar to the cause. Familiarization with giving and the mind of abandonment, those two perfections, you're drawn towards them in future lives. It comes more easily to you. In others, the arising of the effect corresponding to the cause as a continuum of similar type, inner ethics and so on, is destroyed, but the arising of an excellent body, wealth, and so forth is not. So he's saying there are these different possibilities that some, it could be that the inner ethics and tendency to do to give and so on, that would be damaged, but you would still in some future life you would still get the body, a good human body, for example, and wealth and so on. So that's not destroyed. And then other possibilities, again, others, as described above, will have the same realization, will have some realizations of the path that enable them to completely traverse it within one eon, unless anger towards a bodhisattva who has attained prophecy arises in their minds. So this is being more specific about which kind of bodhisattva. I can't remember what that means. Usually, obtained prophecy means that they've been told by one Buddha or another, you're going to achieve enlightenment after such and such a period of time, and you're going to be known by this name and so on. They get that kind of prophecy. So, so if your anger is directed at such a person, you could. So even though you could have achieved a particular level of path in one eon, it could take ages longer. If one thought of anger arises, their traversal or travelling of the path within one eon will be delayed. Although the path that exists in their mind stream, what the realization that they already have, remains as it is. In brief, I think that when it comes to purifying non-virtue, not all its efficacy is necessarily purified. Isn't it likewise the case that when it comes to the destruction of virtue, not all its efficacy is necessarily destroyed? So in other words, just like when you purify, there's a lot of bad things that you avoid, but there can still be some bad things that you do have to face, like, not having to go to the lower, be born in lower realms by purifying, but still delaying progress along the path. And so he's saying, why wouldn't it be the same in the case of same in the case of virtue as in non-virtue? So then he says, where are we? Okay, I was hoping to get down to. Well, let's read this anyway. It might be straightforward. So, nonetheless, this is an important point, and since it seems necessary to analyze it in reliance upon the Buddha's unique scriptures and the reasons based on them, you should look at the Buddha's excellent teachings and analyze. Okay, that's what Lama Tsongkhapa says. We should find out for ourselves by analyzing the scriptures. Not so easy. But I don't know, I mean, even what he said here is, something to think about, isn't it? So the invisible faults of anger are that it propels very unpleasant, fully ripened effects and prevents the emergence of other very pleasant, fully ripening effects. So that's the invisible results. Up to now, I've been talking about the invisible ones, right? Then the visible ones, the ones that you, see right in this life, would be is what that really means. Not necessarily that you can see with your eyes, but you experience in this life. Normally it would mean that. The evident faults of anger are taught in entering Bodhisattva way. You do not experience peace of mind and certainty. Previous joy and happiness are ruined and not achieved later on. Sleep does not come and the mind does not remain at ease. If your hatred is strong, even those you nurtured with kindness forget about your kindness and kill you. So there's a verse in the early on in the 6th chapter of the Bodhisattva that talks about that. You might have looked after people, nourished them, maybe paid for their education, done all sorts of good things for them, but because of your anger, they might even end up killing you. Even friends, if your hatred is strong, even those you nurtured with kindness forget about your kindness and kill you. Even friends and relatives get irritated and abandon you. Even those you gather through generosity do not stay, and so forth. So entering the Bodhisattva way says, there's no bad action equal to hatred, and there's no austerity equal to patience. Therefore, patience should be practiced earnestly and in various ways. Thus, you should contemplate the benefits and faults and make an effort to develop patience in many ways. It should be understood from the compendium of trainings that hatred is not the only faulty conduct that accumulates both major fully ripened effects and the destruction of roots of virtue. They are also holding wrong views that deny reality, especially abandoning the holy Dharma, despising and being arrogant towards beings such as Bodhisattvas and Gurus, and so forth. So we got to there. So spend a couple of minutes before we go into dedication, maybe even a minute, I don't know. Think about what you think is the worst thing about anger and the best thing about practicing patience, which is its opposite. Okay, so let's dedicate. Thanks for your patience and listen to a bit of rambling. May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline but increase more and more. Due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me and all the merits of the three types collected by numberless Buddhism and numberless sentient beings, may bodhicitta be generated in the hearts of all the sentient beings of the 6 realms and especially in the hearts of everybody in this world, including all the students, benefactors and volunteers in the FBMT organization. May it be generated in the hearts of all those who rely upon me, all those for whom I have promised to pray, and all those whose names have been given to me. May it be generated in my heart and in the hearts of all my family members, those who are living and those who have died. May the bodhicitta that has already been generated increase. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. I will dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times in order to have good conduct. Yeah, if you can keep going, please. There, yes. Due to all past, present, future merits collected by me, a number of Buddhas and a number of sentient beings which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, who am quickly empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of full enlightenment which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who am completely empty of existing from my own side. So we leave it like that. Okay, yes, anyway, thank you so much, and see you next week, yes. So happy Maundy Thursday, and then happy Good Friday, and happy, I don't know, I never worked out why they call it Good Friday, actually. And happy Easter. See you.